As he does every Monday in May here at 1045theteam.com. Joining me is Dan Cevette of the Prep Baseball Report. Dan, how are you?
We're real good. Thanks for having us back.
Section 2 playoff pairings come out this afternoon. Wish they were out right now, but they are not. We've got a lot of teams here making headway towards the playoffs, but one team that suffered a bit of a slip-up last week is Shen, arguably the top team in Class AA. They lost at Saratoga against a guy we talked about earlier, maybe last week or 2 weeks ago, Danny Hobbs.
Yeah, he's a guy that we really like. We saw him in February. He's a great projectable arm on the mound, right-handed pitcher, 6'3". We've talked about him a lot. I don't know if a lot of people, know his name, but he's a guy that's going to be recognized here shortly. He did really well. We showed up in the fifth inning. We know it was a big game for Shen. I mean, they started Warzak, and then they brought in Anderson. So if you're going to bring those two guys in the game, it's a must-win. And we saw Hobbs at 87 in the seventh inning, and he was just, really hitting the stride. So we think the sky is the limit for this kid if he can just tighten up a few things, clean his arm up just a little bit. We're really, really excited about his potential.
Is it going to come down to Shen Saratoga in Class AA?
Well, we think Shen's still the favorite with their arms, with Warzak, Malichowski, with Anderson. We think pitching is going to obviously be the factor here in all high school games, especially in the playoffs and sectionals. We think Shen's still the favorite. They have a good lineup as well. We think Saratoga is obviously the next team in line, and it'd be really interesting to see if they could, the guys that are doing the brackets could put it to where maybe a semifinal matchup where it was Hobbs versus Anderson would be a phenomenal matchup. We do think that there's a dark horse, Gilderland. We think Gilderland, who lost to Shen only by one, and they beat some other big teams. They beat Saratoga, they beat Columbia, they beat Colony. So they played really well. They have two good pitchers. Jack Graybeck was a left-handed pitcher. He's going to Bucknell. They have Matt Pierce, who's a guy that's committed to Siena, who's just a junior. Two good pitchers, so that's going to mess the lineup. So we think that kind of stuff is really important.
In Class A, Queensbury, I saw a projection that they're going to get the 1 seed, but you're pretty high on Burnt Hills, right?
Yeah, we think Queensbury is definitely one of the top schools in Class A in your guys' section. We also think Burnt Hills could be a team. They have some, they have good pitching. They have good lineups. We just think that they've done really well. So we think those two teams are probably the top in Class A in your guys' area.
One guy we've talked a lot about is Niskayuna's Garrett Whitley. I promise I didn't come in with the agenda to ask you about him again this week, but I came across my sight line this week that he was projected the number 1 overall pick in June's draft by Baseball Prospectus. I saw him at 13 by Baseball America. Have you seen that? And man, that seems unreal for a kid from this area, doesn't it?
Well, I think it's a lot of hype. I think that he's a very, very, very good player. Tons of athletic upside. I think it'd be interesting to see a team take you number 1 overall, knowing that the kids that are available. But we definitely, our team thinks that he's in that ballpark of the top 30 players in the country, considering high school and college, which is phenomenal. The kid's a great player, and his upside is really what everyone's excited about. He just has that potential to be a really, really good player at that projected big league level. But 1 overall, that's a little crazy.
So you've got Whitley this year. Last year, a Section 2 product, Jeff Hoffman from Shaker. He went to East Carolina. He gets drafted 9th overall. Could have been 1 or 2 overall if he didn't need Tommy John surgery right before the draft. So the Northeast kid's starting to get a lot of respect in the pro circuit, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. You have this year. There's a kid out of New York City, Wesley Rodriguez, who was up to 98 2 days ago at a workout. He's probably a guy that could fall in the early second round, maybe top probably 60, 70 picks overall. That's a New York City product. You have obviously Garrett Whitley, who's probably going to be in the top 30 first round. That's another Northeast guy. You have Ian Anderson, Jeff Belch, guys that are going to be next year's. The talent coming out of the Northeast is really exciting for me because I get to see it all the time, and I've always taken a step back and looked at the Northeast players and thought that they never got the respect that they deserve. And I was a Northeast product myself, coming from Pennsylvania, and I was drafted in the 3rd round out of high school and didn't have a lot of respect going into that. So I love it when these kids are doing well because, I've been in their shoes and I'm always rooting them on.
Dan, some guys who aren't on draft prospect level but are certainly great college players, you're going to have them this summer at the PBR New York games, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a team out of the eastern side of New York, coached by Alex Drzinski. He's the Hudson Valley Community College coach. It's going to be a phenomenal event, 3-day event in Rochester, New York, where we bring together six sections of New York State together to battle against each other. They get a showcase. They get 4 games to battle. There's a couple names you want to talk about. A couple pitchers on the team. Danny Hobbs, obviously, we already spoke about him. He's on the team. Dylan Jones from Ichabod Crane. He's a kid we like a lot. We've seen him up to 85. He's just a real hard-nosed, strong kid. There's a kid, Garrett Bailey from Fort Ann. I don't know if a lot of people know that's north of Albany. Very, very talented kid that we like a lot. We think he's completely under the radar. Brad Smith out of St. John's Up, a small school. He's had crazy numbers this year. He's been up to 84. Smaller kid, but, he has a quick arm. A couple guys, position guys we want to talk about. Frankie Pizzo from Shen. That's a bigger school. He's on the team. We have Nick Malachowski, who will close a game or two, but he's going to play shortstop. We have a kid named Will Van Uzicom. I don't know if you guys know that name. He's an outfielder, right-hand pitcher for CBA. This kid's 6'6", 200 pounds. He can run. He's got some power, gap-to-gap power, and he can throw a little bit off the mound, probably low 80s right now, just figuring out his frame. This kid is scary, how good he could be. You have a kid named Davis Payne on the same team. He's a 17 graduate, left-hand hitter, big kid, 6'4", a lot of bat speed, a lot of bat power. Excited about him. Zach Durfee, from Boston Spa, he's a phenomenal athlete that's way under the radar. I mean, this team is completely loaded and stacked.
Well, we will certainly be paying attention to the Eastern New York team in the PBR games this summer. But for now, sectional pairings about to come out just a few hours away. Again, we will have all that for you at 1045theteam.com. Dan Cevette, thanks for being with us.
Hey, always a pleasure. Thank you.